views or opinions expressed on KUR are not necessarily those of Kutztown University, Kutztown University Student Government, Kutztown University Student Services Incorporated, KUR staff and management, or other affiliated organizations.
This is Kutztown Live, Kutztown University's campus and community issues talk radio magazine. You can listen back to any of our episodes of Kutztown Live by going to Spotify and searching Kutztown University Radio. And now, your hosts of Kutztown Live.
Welcome to Kutztown Live here on the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. It's time for our special guest host that we bring on air at least every couple of weeks here on KUR, Lori from the Northeast Berks Chamber of Commerce. Today she has two guests, so it should be a great show. Lori, take it away.
Thank you so much, Mike. Yes, I'm here to represent the Northeast Berks Chamber of Commerce. Our office is located in Kutztown, PA. And if anyone who's listening is interested in membership and its benefits, please visit northeastberkschamber.com. Today, I'd like to welcome two members of the Northeast Berks Chamber. One is the Executive Director of CASA of Berks County. Her name is Nancy McCullough. And another familiar face and voice for the Chamber is David Green of David Green and Associates, who happens to be the Vice President on the board of CASA of Berks County. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you so much.
Nancy, I'd like to start with you. As I mentioned, you're the Executive Director of CASA of Berks County, and I believe you assumed that role in March of 19. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
So Nancy, I know that in reading your biography and information about CASA that you have extensive experience in nonprofit management and consulting, and also in matters of child welfare.
Yes, I've been a executive director of various organizations since, well, at least for 30 years. And I have worked with children in foster care for that length of time. And most of my positions have been with organizations that serve children that are abused or neglected.
Well, it sounds that based on that experience, you're very well suited to this role of executive director. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Let's start with the obvious question that you're probably asked quite often. What is a CASA?
CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate, and these are citizen volunteers that have been trained by us to be advocates for children. When they've completed their training, which is about 30 hours, they then are sworn in by the judge, and they become what we call the judge's eyes and ears on that particular case that they're serving.
They are volunteers, correct?
Correct.
Now, how would you describe a typical CASA in terms of their life experiences or any special skills or interests that they may have that lead them into this role?
Our CASAs range from age 20, 21 to over 75. About 40%, 45% of our CASAs are over the age of 50. And I would say what everyone has in common is a passion for children, and that children are thriving, and a passion for justice, and a neutrality, meaning they don't come into the job with preconceived notions, that they look at every situation as objectively as possible. But their background, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, it is obviously a very serious role, and I just wanted to revert back to something you said a few minutes ago. For those who are listening, the CASA volunteer is sworn in by a judge in family court. How does the CASA get to that point? What is the process of applying to become a CASA?
Well, for our listeners, we have a website, www.casaberks.org, and on that is directions on how to attend one of our introductory sessions. So a person who's interested in being a volunteer attends an introductory session, learns the kind of time that it takes to do this job. And if they're very interested, then they fill out an application. We need to do background checks. We need to check 3 references, and then they do an individual interview. And it's in that interview that we're looking for whether there's any biases there, that we're looking for people with open minds. And once they pass all of that, then they join our class. It's once a week for 10 weeks of 4 hours of training, and then there's lots of homework. So altogether, it's 30 hours of training, and they pass all of that, and they're ready to be sworn in.
I think that's very impressive that a person's willing to invest that time and energy into the process. And because it is a serious role, how does the CASA communicate with the judge about any children that he or she has in his caseload?
One of the things I left out in answering your previous question was that the CASAs have to agree to commit to this position for at least 2 years, because that's one of their key roles for the court, is that even though guardian ad litems might change or social workers might change, there's this CASA volunteer is the one consistent with the case. So that's key for the judge. And what the CASA does is they talk to social workers. They definitely see the child at least once a month, if not much more often. They talk to bio parents, they talk to the foster parents, they visit the school, they talk to doctors, and that all goes into a report that they then give to the judge. And the judge, what we've heard back from the judges is that the CASA report is the first one that they read, because the CASA is coming with no preconceived notions, no budgets that constrain them. And the CASA then makes recommendations for what they think is best for the child. And the judges use that CASA report and then read the other reports to come up with, what they're going to be recommending for the child from the judge's bench.
And do those judges sometimes accept those recommendations and move forward with them?
Absolutely. So we looked back at our court records for the last 3 years, and we found that we made 517 recommendations to the judges on the children we served, and 94% of them were accepted and acted upon.
Wow, that's an incredible statistic. That's amazing. You also mentioned, Nancy, a few minutes ago that consistency. How important is the consistency of that advocate working with that child in these circumstances?
Unfortunately, for a child in foster care, they're going to be in at least 3 different homes within their first year or 2. And we recently had a child who was adopted into her forever home. She had 11 placements in the 3 years she was in care, and she's only 6 years old. So having that consistent person who knew her from the time she was 3 till the time she was 6, that's invaluable for that child.
You're right. It's important. It's invaluable. It's heartbreaking to think about a child having that many placements in a 3-year period.
Absolutely.
Well, let me move on to David Green. We know David Green as a chamber member, but as I mentioned at the start of this interview, David, you're also the vice president for CASA of Berks County. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how a person in our community can serve the organization?
I would suggest that someone take some steps here to get to know more about the program first. Check out our website at casaberks.org. Get to know about the level of need right here in our community of Berks, where we have children that are isolated, separated from their parents, possibly their sisters and brothers, and the power of an advocate through a CASA, the effect that can have on a foster child. Get connected with us on social media. You can help by liking and sharing and including in conversation with your friends and family about CASA. And also getting to know us well enough to advocate for us to our government leaders right here in Berks. And then ultimately, if you'd like to volunteer, there are different levels. CASAs are certainly welcome. They are angels in our community. You can serve as a CASA, but we also have projects throughout the year where you can serve on one of our committees. So that would be awesome. And then all charities are looking for donations, and you can donate now. You can donate monthly. You may choose to even sponsor a CASA. Imagine that. The cost is very low. What is unique about this program, Laurie, is the direct primary care of this program is delivered by volunteers, unpaid volunteers. The value proposition is amazing. A group of you can get together with coworkers, family and friends, or do it yourself. Currently, our cost of a CASA to deliver a trained person, as Nancy just mentioned, 30 hours of training, background checks, and a commitment of a couple of years runs about $2,000 a year. Is that right, Nancy?
That's right.
That's where we are. Nationally, I'm going to guess it's about 3,000 or less, but here in Berks, we're running about 2,000. So what a great value proposition and opportunity to change the life of a child with a power of a caring adult, a CASA advocate.
And of course, you're a 501c3, so that's a tax-deductible donation, correct?
We are, and companies can choose to support us through advertising as well for their tax considerations as well.
Now, I know that all of our businesses and nonprofits have been impacted by COVID-19. I also know that each year you organize for the last few years a special breakfast. Tell us about the breakfast. Has it been rescheduled? What's happening?
Nancy?
The breakfast has been rescheduled to next year, so it's April 23rd, 2021. And part of the breakfast is that we offer a Champions for Children award, and we did do that award this year virtually. And we asked the community to nominate people that they know who are changing the lives of children in Berks County, and we give an award to an individual, an organization, a teenager, and an animal, because animals do change children's lives. And that will be collecting nominations all this fall and winter, and be giving out those awards at the breakfast on April 23rd.
You know, it's clear that when we work in the world of business, we often hear the phrase buy local. I think serve local is certainly just as effective. And here's a wonderful example where we have so many philanthropic people living in Berks County. And here's a wonderful opportunity for them to support an organization like CASA of Berks County. Nancy, if there's anyone listening today who's interested in becoming a board member, a volunteer of any kind, a CASA, a sponsor, an advertiser, what is the best way for that person to reach you?
At my email address, which is nancy@casaberks.org, and I'll respond immediately and get you connected to the right person depending on what your interest is.
Well, I thank you for speaking with us today. I hope that your membership with the Northeast Berks Chamber is very fruitful. And I know that even through virtual networking, you may have an opportunity to connect with people that you haven't met before who may be interested in serving or supporting your organization. Thank you so much.